This is Kirtop, and these are the 100 most insane archaeological discoveries that scared scientists. Ancient tumor with teeth. During archaeological excavations in Amarna, Egypt, scientists made an astonishing discovery. In one of the tombs, dated to around 1340 BC, they found the skeleton of a young woman aged 18 to 20, wrapped in plant fiber material. Although tomb number 3051 was located in a cemetery for common people, the woman apparently belonged to a wealthier social class, as indicated by the presence of gold rings on her hands. Special attention was drawn to a ring depicting the deity Bez, who protected the household and women. However, the most astonishing find was a mass of bone with teeth discovered in the pelvic area of the skeleton. This formation, according to researchers, is believed to be an ovarian teratoma, a tumor containing tissues not typical for that location, such as hair, bones, or teeth. It is possible that the amulet depicting Bez was worn by the woman to ease the pain associated with her ovarian disease. This discovery is especially valuable because teratomas are extremely rare in archaeological finds. This is the oldest known case of such a tumor. The study of the woman from Amarna suggests that she was an active participant in the social life of the city, which was the capital of Egypt during the reign of Akhenaten. The rotating Egyptian statue. There are rumors that a certain ancient Egyptian statue discovered in a museum mysteriously rotates on its pedestal at night, and for a long time it was believed to be cursed. In reality, it was much simpler. Researchers stated that they have evidence of external vibrations that cause the 25-centimeter statue to rotate. The museum's Egyptologist, Campbell Price, suggested that the museum might have been struck by an ancient curse. However, Professor Brian Cox gave a more realistic explanation. He thinks the differing friction between the statue's stone and the glass shelf causes vibrations that make the statue rotate. Expert Steve Gosling installed vibration sensors under the cabinet and detected vibrations caused by passers-by and the movement of cars on the busy road nearby. This phenomenon may attract new tourists to the museum to learn more about ancient Egypt. The spinning days of the Nebsanu statue have come to an end. Now, a membrane has been attached to the base of the statue and other exhibits to prevent movement in the future. Russian pyramids. If you haven't seen them in person, you've surely heard of the grandeur of the Egyptian pyramids on the Giza Plateau. This architectural ensemble, which has amazed the world with its magnificence for centuries, is considered one of the most monumental. But Russian researchers have proposed an alternative, pointing to the existence of even older pyramids on the territory of Russia, covering areas from the Kola Peninsula to the Black Sea. The first discovery of such pyramid-like structures took place on the Kola Peninsula in 2001, and their dating indicated an age twice that of their Egyptian counterparts. Subsequent findings confirmed the artificial origin of these pyramids, which were built between 9,000 and 40,000 years ago. In 2010, researchers discovered another ancient pyramid, noting the similarity of construction techniques with Egyptian and Chinese structures. In the Krasnoyarsk region, there is Mount Chernaya, an extinct volcano that was named Pyramid because of its three-sided shape with man-made masonry, which was discovered in 1993. In Rostov-on-Don, there is the Arya Sanctuary, a unique structure that predates the Egyptian pyramids by 1,000 years and was built according to the golden ratio principle. Crimea is especially rich in such finds. In 2001, 7 pyramids were found lined up between Sevastopol and Foros, supposedly 2,000 years older than the Egyptian ones. Their architecture resembles the Tibetan and Mexican pyramids, indicating the existence of an ancient, advanced civilization. It's hard to believe that the Egyptian pyramids are really as ancient as we were told before. Such findings also confirm that the Egyptians were not the first to create such grand structures. To this day, humanity is still puzzled in trying to understand why people in ancient times built pyramid structures all over the globe. The Book of Kells. The Book of Kells is a medieval manuscript kept in the Trinity College Library and is one of the main attractions of Dublin. This manuscript contains the 4 Gospels in Latin and canon tables written on parchment. The book measures 33 by 25 centimeters, and consists of 340 pages. It was created at the end of the 8th century and the beginning of the 9th century, and research has shown that it had 4 illustrators. A distinctive feature of the manuscript is that each letter has its own unique design, color, and meaning, like a secret code that has yet to be deciphered. The book got its name from the Abbey of Kells, where it was preserved from the Vikings in 1814. It is believed that work on it began during the lifetime of St. Columba and continued for 2 centuries after his death. Historians suggest several theories about the origin of this manuscript. According to one of them, it was created on the island of Iona and later moved to the Abbey of Kells. Another theory says that the writing began on Iona but was completed in Kells. There is also a suggestion that the manuscript was created in England or even in Scotland. Despite the variety of theories, the Book of Kells remains one of the most mysterious and magnificent works of art of the Middle Ages. The Delhi Purple Sapphire. This story begins with a Hindu temple where the mystical Delhi Purple Sapphire was kept, but in reality, it was an amethyst. During the Indian Rebellion of 1857, Colonel Ferris took the stone for himself. He didn't know that horrors and the loss of his fortune and health awaited him, and the same thing happened to his son. The writer, Edward Heron Allen, became the owner of the amethyst in 1890, but misfortunes continued to follow him. He even tried to drown the stone, but without success. In the end, the stone, as if stained with blood, ended up in a safe and then in the London Museum of Natural History. No one dared to own this stone anymore. So if you ever come across this stone, be careful. Curses in archaeology do exist, believe it or not. Subscribe to my channel and I'll tell you many more amazing stories. Ancient hair. It turns out this terrible epidemic has a very long history. Various narcotic substances were popular thousands of years ago, and in those times, millions of people around the world died from this poison. Archaeologists found the oldest case of drug use in Europe on the island of Minorca near Spain. This person's hair is more than 3,000 years old. Scientists, while studying the Escarix cave, discovered that our ancestors performed a strange ritual. They cut strands of hair from the deceased, dyed them red, and placed them in small boxes made of horn and wood. Researchers analyzed the hair using advanced methods and found the alkaloids scopolamine and ephedrine in them, substances that cause hallucinations. It's no secret that researchers can detect drugs in a person's hair and nails even months or years later. Scientists believe that ancient people used plants that caused visions, such as mandrake, henbane, and datura. In addition, they ate ephedra, which contains ephedrine and a stimulant. Now we can confidently say that psychostimulants were popular in Europe more than 3,000 years ago, and most likely were already a major problem for humanity back then. Egyptian hieroglyphs in Australia. In a secluded corner of Australia, on the shores of Brisbane Waters National Park, there are mysterious carved symbols known as the Gosford glyphs. These symbols, carved on rocks in the forest, spark endless debates among researchers and enthusiasts of ancient civilizations. The Gosford glyphs are a set of carved signs that, in their style, resemble ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. They depict various symbols, including figures of people, animals, and mystical creatures, as well as abstract signs and pictograms. These symbols are located on 2 large stone panels, and their content and origin remain a subject of debate to this day. The similarity of the glyphs to Egyptian hieroglyphs gives rise to the theory of a possible historical contact between ancient Egypt and Australia. Some researchers believe that the glyphs could have been created by Egyptians who traveled to or even shipwrecked on the Australian continent. A series of drawings tells the story of 2 princes who arrived from Egypt, one of whom died and was buried at this site. Translations and interpretations of these symbols differ, but many agree that the texts on the stones contain elements of ancient Egyptian rituals and beliefs. It is possible that this indicates that the ancient Egyptians really explored or even temporarily settled in Australia. Some symbols, such as the UFO glyph, are interpreted as depictions of unusual objects or phenomena, which only fuels interest in this place. The theory about a connection between Egypt and Australia is also supported by Aboriginal legends and the discovery of artifacts in Egypt that could indicate contact between the continents. For example, the discovery of tobacco and cocaine in mummies. A plant that is native to the Americas suggests that ancient cultures may have had advanced navigation skills and engaged in intercontinental trade. For ancient travelers, Australia might have represented not only a new land to explore, but also a place of pilgrimage where they could gain new knowledge and resources. The exchange of knowledge and technology could have been mutual, with the ancient Egyptians adopting unique survival methods and ways of understanding nature from Aboriginal people. The Gosford glyphs confirm that human history may still hold many unknown chapters waiting to be uncovered. Britain will return the spears to the descendants of Aboriginal people. After 7 years of effort, Aboriginal Australians have succeeded in having the unique wooden spears returned, which were taken more than 250 years ago by the crew of the famous navigator James Cook. These artifacts were brought to England as trophies after the first encounter between Europeans and the indigenous people in 1770 in Botany Bay, near modern-day Sydney. The spears, which belonged to the Aboriginal Guigal clan, were kept for many years at Trinity College, University of Cambridge, and then transferred to the Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology in Cambridge. Originally, Cook took 40 spears to England, but only 4 have survived to this day. Now, these artifacts have been returned and will be kept at the Australian Museum near the places where their original owners once lived. Recently, many countries, including Germany and the Netherlands, have started returning cultural artifacts that were taken away during colonialism. For example, Benin bronzes were returned to Nigeria, and valuable jewelry was returned to Sri Lanka and Bali. However, the United Kingdom continues to have difficulties returning the most significant artifacts. Greece, for example, has been trying for decades to get back the Parthenon marble sculptures, which are in the British Museum. Finally, after hundreds of years, all the ancient artifacts continue to return to their homeland, and in the near future, we will see empty European museums. Dinosaur tracks in rock art. The scientific community encountered an unusual discovery in the northeast of Brazil, where they found a unique combination of dinosaur tracks and ancient petroglyphs. In the state of Paraíba, in the area of Serrote do Letreiro, researchers discovered fossilized footprints of theropods, sauropods, and iguanodonts from the early Cretaceous period, as well as pre-colonial rock paintings. This unique place combines ancient tracks and art, creating a symbolic connection between painting and fossils. Previously, petroglyphs were also found near dinosaur tracks, but not in such close association. Researchers believe that ancient artists deliberately chose places near ancient tracks for their drawings. This highlights a deep perception of the connection between art and natural phenomena. Petroglyphs, which previously received less attention, are now being studied together with ancient tracks. The rock paintings depict circular figures with radial lines and other geometric motifs, the meaning of which remains a mystery for now. Among the drawings, there are images resembling grids, stars, and snakes, indicating a range of styles and possibly multiple artists. Researchers have deciphered the Voynich manuscript. The Voynich manuscript has been intriguing scientists and cryptographers for more than 600 years. This document, filled with encrypted texts and unusual illustrations, has given rise to many hypotheses, ranging from magical spells to obscene texts. But researchers from Macquarie University have concluded that the content of the manuscript is not only decent, but also contains information that, in the early 15th century, was not meant for everyone. Dr. Keegan Brewer, the lead author of the study, claims that the manuscript is a medieval gynecology reference book, including information about sex, contraception, and the treatment of gynecological diseases. The encrypted nature of the text suggests that access to this information was intentionally limited to a specific group of female readers, which is a vivid example of gender censorship. The manuscript contains numerous illustrations depicting plants, animals, and people, but researchers were particularly drawn to drawings of naked women pointing to their genitals. These images clearly hint at the gynecological focus of the text. Women's secrets, as women's health was called in the Middle Ages, were strictly censored despite being actively studied. The patriarchal culture of that era feared the female body and its functions, which was reflected in the medical texts of the time. One of the largest and most mysterious illustrations, known as the rosettes, may symbolize the commonly accepted views on sex and contraception of that time. According to the beliefs of that time, the uterus consisted of 7 chambers, and the vagina had 2 openings. Perhaps the 9 circles in the illustration symbolize these anatomical details. Thus, the Voynich manuscript may not be just a collection of meaningless symbols, or a joke, as some have suggested, but an important historical document revealing approaches to women's health in medieval Europe. Mysterious footprints. In 1978, footprints were found in Tanzania dating back a full 3.7 million years, which became one of the first pieces of evidence of bipedalism in human ancestors. The discovery sparked a wave of interest in the history of hominin evolution. Near this site, other footprints were found, which some scientists mistakenly identified as bear tracks. A new study by Ellison McNatt's team from Ohio University disproved this theory. The researchers returned to analyzing the footprints found at the Laetoli site, which is known for its hominin trackways. It was assumed that the footprints belonged to Australopithecus afarensis, which includes the famous skeleton Lucy. An international team of scientists decided to solve the mystery by re-excavating and studying 5 of the footprints. A comparison with the footprints of bears, chimpanzees, and humans showed that it was unlikely that bears could have left such tracks, given their way of moving and the width of their stride. The researchers observed the behavior of bears that were attracted with maple syrup or applesauce to walk on their hind legs. The observations showed that bears rarely move in this way, making the theory of bear origin of the tracks unlikely. The analysis of the chimpanzee tracks revealed similarities, but the morphology of the tracks indicated that they were left by a different species of Australopithecus, not Australopithecus afarensis. Thus, the study confirmed that the mysterious tracks at Laetoli belonged to human ancestors, the face and phallus of ancient Romans. Let's weigh anchor and set off for Spain, where archaeologists from the University of Alicante made an amazing discovery. They found an ancient rock carving depicting a face, a cornucopia, and, believe it or not, a phallus. This discovery was made at the castle of Tassal de la Calo. Just imagine, this carving, hidden on the rocks, has existed for about 2,000 years. In those ancient times, around the 80s and 70s BC, this area was a Roman fort where the Romans defended themselves during the Civil War. On this mysterious stone, a human face is depicted, next to which a phallus and a cornucopia are carved. The carving is quite large, about 57 meters by 42 centimeters, but it seems to be unfinished because the upper part is missing. And why was it created, you may ask? It could be ancient graffiti or some kind of ritual symbol. For the Romans, the phallus was a symbol of male power and the security of the state, so its presence suggests a protective function for the carving. And the cornucopia, which is also depicted there, is often associated with Roman deities of harvest and prosperity. Let's recall the myth of Heracles, who tore off the horn of the river god Achelous and turned it into the cornucopia. So perhaps this mystical carving depicts a god or goddess embodying abundance. But that's just one theory. But you can write your opinion about this in the comments. What do you think? Why did they depict a phallus next to the face in ancient Rome? Did the Romans really believe that such a carving would help protect the state? Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. 120 horse skeletons were found by archaeologists in China at the ruins of the ancient fortress city of Yaohaiwan, which arose during the Bronze Age. This city, which once served as an important political and cultural hub, concealed palaces, sacrificial pits, moats, and many other structures. In particular, scientists discovered 6 special pits where they found horse skeletons carefully laid in layers. Mysteriously, some of these skeletons were dismembered. According to research, it is most likely that the animals were dismembered before being buried. In total, about 120 horse skeletons were found, including foals. This practice indicates the high status and prosperity of the city at that time, highlighting the importance of horses in this region. Researchers also came across a bronze casting site from the Western Zhou period, where they found remnants of a specific clay mixture used to create various molds and building foundations. Among other findings, there are many artifacts, ceramic items, stone ornaments, lacquerware, as well as vessels made of celadon and bone with carved symbols resembling Chinese characters. Lost history. A long-awaited fragment of the famous Dead Sea Scrolls, dating back 2,700 years, was recently discovered. These scrolls are part of a collection of ancient manuscripts discovered near the Dead Sea between 1946 and 1956, including 972 documents in various ancient languages. A third of them contain biblical texts, while the rest are non-biblical, relating to the era of the Second Temple. Interestingly, one of the 3 rare fragments dated to the period of the First Temple, which was thought to be lost, was discovered in the United States, in the state of Montana. The owner of this ancient artifact said that his mother bought the papyrus as a souvenir in Jerusalem in 1965. This fragment is of interest to scholars because it contains only 4 lines in ancient Hebrew, beginning with the words, "Go to Ishmael." Researchers suggest that this was an instruction for the recipient. The name Ishmael in biblical history is associated with the firstborn of Abraham and his maidservant Hagar, and it is quite popular. After a detailed analysis, experts confirmed the authenticity of the scroll and its age. Now, this historical artifact is in Israel with the Antiquities Authority. However, many similar scrolls are still hidden in private collections around the world. The skull from the quarry. The next incredible story is about the famous Piltdown Man. We go back to 1912 to the small village of Piltdown in England. In a gravel quarry, they found the bones of an ancient human who lived more than 500,000 years ago. But not just any human. This skull looked like a mix between an ape and a human, as if it were the missing link in evolution. Archaeologists, including the famous Charles Dawson, were thrilled. They even named the find after him, Eoanthropus dawsoni. More bones and a canine tooth, which definitely belonged to this ancient human, were found in the quarry. The Piltdown Man became a celebrity. He was considered an ancestor of modern humans. However, in 1953, the truth came out. It was all a forgery. The skull was stained and made to look ancient, and the jaw belonged to an orangutan. Even the canine tooth was painted. Many suspect Dawson himself of creating this forgery. There are other suspects as well, including the famous writer Arthur Conan Doyle. But the mystery remains unsolved. The Piltdown Man became one of the most notorious archaeological hoaxes. As you can see, even scientists can be deceived. Do you believe this story? A gold bead over 1,600 years old, once again, excavations in Jerusalem. A gold bead crafted by a skilled jeweler over 1,600 years ago was discovered in the Emek Tzurim National Park. The find was discovered by 18-year-old Hillel Feidman, who was serving her national service in the park. Archaeologists believe the bead was part of a bracelet or necklace. The soil was taken from a luxurious building that stood on the Pilgrim's Road. Judging by the finds made here and the shards of imported pottery, it can be concluded that a very wealthy family lived here. This find is valuable for both its material and the ancient jeweler's craftsmanship. The technology for making such jewelry appeared in Mesopotamia in the 3rd millennium BC. Researchers suggest that the bead may be much older than 1,600 years. A jeweler needed great skill in working with the material to carefully connect the tiny beads together without flattening them. For this, it was important to maintain the correct temperature. Similar jewelry has already been found in Jerusalem, but it was made of silver. Astronomical compendium from 1550. Here's an interesting fact from archaeology. There used to be devices called astronomical compendiums. These were small instruments for complex calculations, packed into a single box. Astronomical compendiums were quite expensive and were a sign of their owner's wealth. One of these compendiums, made around 1550 in Augsburg, was crafted from gilded brass. Such a compendium included many instruments, including a nocturnal for determining the time at night by the stars, lists of latitudes, a magnetic compass, a list of ports and harbors, a perpetual calendar, and a lunar indicator. With the help of an astronomical compendium, one could determine the current time, the tide height in ports, and perform calendar calculations. All of this was so amazing and useful that today it's even hard to imagine how such complex functions could fit into such a small device. Pyramids of Meroe. Everyone knows about the huge pyramids of Egypt, but Sudan has the largest collection of these amazing ancient structures. What a twist. Sudan is often associated with civil wars and diseases, but this country is a treasure trove for lovers of culture and history, with the pyramids of Meroe topping the list. They were built in Nubia, one of the earliest civilizations of ancient Africa, and served as the eternal resting place for the last pharaohs of the ancient city of Meroe. More than 200 pyramids located on 3 sites were built as royal tombs for 40 kings and queens who ruled the Nubian kingdom of Kush for over 1,000 years. This period is known as the Meroitic period. Unlike the pyramids of Giza, the pyramids of Meroe are built from granite and sandstone and are characterized by small bases and steep slopes. Inside the tombs, many artifacts are found: pottery, glass, quivers with arrows. Even despite the destruction, the pyramids retain their magic, especially at sunrise and sunset. Bas-reliefs depicting scenes from ancient Egyptian mythology indicate a strong cultural influence. A tomb from the time of the ancient empire. The history of China is unique and very interesting. It seems to me that much more should be said about this amazing country so that archaeology is not associated only with ancient Egypt. So a few years ago, archaeologists discovered an ancient tomb in China that was built during the Jin Empire. This empire was located in the territory of northern China and what is now the Russian Far East. Workers discovered the stone tomb in 2019 at a site 650 kilometers from Beijing. Archaeologists found out that the tomb is decorated with figures of lions, sea anemones, flowers, and guardian spirits. One figure is of a woman, the other of a man. Inside the tomb, the bricks look like carved wood, possibly without any paint. In the tomb, the remains of 3 people were found: 2 adults aged 50 to 60 years old and 1 child about 6 years old. Researchers also found a land deed with inscriptions showing that the tomb was built between 1190 and 1196. At that time, this region was under the rule of the Jin state. The imperial family came from the Jurchens, a semi-nomadic people from northeastern China. Today, their relatives are the Manchus and the Evenks. In 1207, the population of this state was 53 million people. Information about the age of the tomb will help date other structures in this region. From China, we will travel to Israel, where another eerie burial awaits us. Pompeii managed to preserve history. In the year 79 AD, the city of Pompeii, a flourishing center of trade and culture on the shore of the Tyrrhenian Sea, met its demise. The inhabitants of the city were caught off guard by the powerful eruption of Vesuvius, a volcano that for many years had seemed like a sleeping giant. This eruption is shrouded in secrets and mystical omens, as even the very day of the disaster, according to some studies, was enveloped in an unusual atmosphere. Early in the morning, the volcano began spewing a colossal cloud of ash and gas, which rose to a height of more than 30 kilometers. Pyroclastic flows, a deadly combination of burning gas, ash, and volcanic bombs, instantly covered the city, taking lives and freezing everything around in the last second of their existence. It is estimated that between 10,000 and 25,000 people died as a result of the volcanic eruption. The central areas of Pompeii suffered the most, where houses and public buildings were buried under meters of ash and pumice. The volcanic ash that covered the city played a crucial role in the preservation of Pompeii. This thick layer made it difficult for air and microorganisms to reach the site, which resulted in the remarkable preservation of buildings, mosaics, frescoes, and even organic materials such as wood, fabrics, and food. The street and houses of Pompeii, frozen in time, provide an invaluable snapshot of ancient life, preserved for millennia. Excavations of the Villa of the Papyri in Herculaneum have revealed amazing artifacts, including mosaics, statues, and more than 1,800 papyrus scrolls that belong to the library of the famous philosopher Philodemus. These scrolls are a real treasure for historians and archaeologists, as they contain works on philosophy, ethics, rhetoric, and poetry, written from the 1st century BC to the year 79 AD. The study of these documents sheds new light on our understanding of the culture and spiritual life of the ancient Greeks and Romans, illustrating the sophistication of their thinking and the breadth of their knowledge. Modern technology plays a key role in the study of these ancient texts. Methods such as virtual unrolling and X-ray scanning allow scientists to read papyrus scrolls without physically handling them, eliminating the risk of damaging these fragile materials. Thus, Pompeii continues to stand as a testament to tragedy and at the same time as a time capsule, providing a unique window into the past. The story of the burial of the ancient Egyptian prince. In a cemetery in Middlebury, Vermont, there is an unusual grave that stands out among the rest. It is believed to be the burial of the Egyptian prince Amunker-Hepeshef, who was born in 1881 BC during the Middle Kingdom of Egypt and died at the age of 2.5. His father, Senusret III, later became pharaoh and ruled during the 12th dynasty, known for his military campaigns and the construction of the Sesostris Canal. The boy's mummy was likely taken out of Egypt by tomb robbers during the Victorian era and eventually ended up in the collection of an American museum in the 19th century. Henry Sheldon, a collector and founder of the Vermont History Museum, acquired the mummy from Spanish sailors and kept it in the attic of his museum due to its poor condition. After Sheldon's death in 1907, the mummy remained unclaimed until 1945, when the museum director, George Mitt, decided to cremate the decayed remains and bury them in a cemetery to prevent possible vandalism by students. The tombstone is decorated with a Christian cross surrounded by the Egyptian symbols Ankh and Ba, which symbolize life and spirit. The idol of the Gorbanovsky peat bog. The Gorbanovsky peat bog, located in the Urals, is an outstanding Paleolithic and Bronze Age archaeological site, and it became the first archaeological discovery of its kind in Russia. In the place of the modern swamp, there was once a lake, on the shore of which people built platforms, leaving behind dwellings, tools, and vessels. Over time, the area became swampy, but this did not stop people from settling the area, as evidenced by the finds of charcoal fragments. Among the unique artifacts found here were a boomerang and a wooden idol carved from a pine trunk, with a disproportionately long body and a detailed head, which makes it different from other finds. This idol, found beneath the excavation wall, is still in the Nizhny Tagil Museum. In addition, the head of an idol with primitive workmanship and another idol with a simplified body shape were found, both of which are now in the collection of the State Historical Museum. These artifacts demonstrate special care in the making of everyday objects and accuracy in depicting the forms of animals and birds. Anthropomorphic images, however, are made roughly and schematically, which may be related to ancient beliefs about depicting the spirits of the dead. It is assumed that because of the fear of binding a spirit to its image, wooden sculptures were made symbolic and deliberately unrealistic. This approach to creating human images indicates the deeply rooted traditions and beliefs of the ancient inhabitants of the Urals. Echoes of an ancient battle. In Andalusia, archaeologists have discovered a unique artifact connected to Ulitur, Caesar, and the ancient Iberian Roman city of Ipsca. The find is a lead sling bullet, on which the name of Caesar and the name of Ipsca are inscribed in abbreviated form. This is the first case on the Iberian Peninsula where such a clear inscription of Caesar's name and the name of a Roman city from Spain has been found on such a projectile. The discovery was made thanks to the work of experts from various research institutions in Spain. The ball was found in the Montilla area in Andalusia, where historians believe the famous Battle of Munda may have taken place. In 45 BC, where Caesar faced the sons of Pompey. The ball itself is shaped like an acorn with pointed ends, measuring 4.5 centimeters in length, 2 centimeters in width, and 1.7 centimeters in height. It weighs about 71 grams. The inscriptions Ipsca and Case are clearly engraved on it. This artifact is an example of the ancient Greek and Roman practice of inscribing metal sling projectiles, known as glandes inscripti. Clay molds with engravings were used to create these projectiles, which made it possible to produce embossed inscriptions. These inscriptions usually contained the name of the manufacturer, military leaders, legions, or the place of deployment. with colored masks and golden tongues. In the historic district of Al-Banasa in Egypt, a group of Spanish archaeologists led by Dr. Maite Mascoro and Dr. Esther Pons Melado from the University of Barcelona made a significant discovery. The scientists discovered ancient tombs carved into the rocks, as well as a number of valuable artifacts which allowed for a deeper study of the history of this region. The team of archaeologists found tombs that date back to the eras of the Ptolemies and the Roman Empire, discovering a unique burial method. One of the most amazing discoveries is a terracotta statue of Isis Aphrodite, adorned with crowns made of leaves, which is an important addition to the study of the art of that era. During the excavations, mummies from the Roman era were also found, decorated with gilded and colorful funerary masks. An interesting feature was the discovery of golden tongues in the mouths of some mummies, which indicates ancient burial customs intended to keep the deceased able to speak in the afterlife. Adelia Kasak, the head of the Central Administration of Antiquities of Middle Egypt, emphasized the importance of the discovery of a ruined building with unique drawings depicting plants, grapevines, and animals. These images provide valuable insight into the culture and life in Al-Baknas in ancient times. A mysterious imprint underground. Another mysterious discovery was made by archaeologists in Israel, in the old city of Jerusalem. In a previously buried massive moat, researchers found an engraved handprint on the wall. Scientists were conducting excavations near one of the city's main thoroughfares. It is believed that the moat was dug by Muslim defenders of the city around the 10th century to strengthen the defense of the city walls. Archaeologists had no idea that one of the city's most important streets was built right over a huge moat. Interestingly, the moat was carved directly into the rock. It is 10 meters wide, and its depth ranges from 2 to 7 meters. Archaeologists still cannot understand why ancient builders left a handprint there more than 1,000 years ago. Interestingly, this handprint could have belonged to a ruler or a priest, or even to an ordinary builder with a sense of humor. As we all know, moats were dug to be filled with water. In our case, the moat was never filled with water. Ancient engineers believed that the size of this barrier would be enough to hold back or slow down the enemy. The glass brain. Archaeologists discovered a unique find, one of a kind, during their excavations in Italy. The eruption of Mount Vesuvius in the year 79 AD was a catastrophe for a huge number of people. The Roman cities of Pompeii, Herculaneum, and Stabiae were completely covered by the lava and ash from the volcano. Archaeologists are still conducting excavations here, trying to find something interesting. This time, they were lucky. They found an actual human brain turned to glass. The thermal energy released during the eruption was 500 times greater than the energy released by the atomic bomb explosion over Hiroshima. The remains of a 25-year-old man from Herculaneum who died during the eruption of Vesuvius were discovered in the 1960s. His body was found in a small room in the Collegium of Augustus, a building dedicated to Emperor Octavian Augustus. The young man's body was on a bed, and judging by his posture, he was asleep at the moment of death. To conduct their research and study ancient artifacts, archaeologists have to piece everything together bit by bit. The archaeologists quickly decided to open the young man's skull and found his brain had turned into glass. No similar vitrification appeared elsewhere in his body. Analysis showed that the material in the skull was indeed human brain. Characteristic fatty acids were found in the glass fragments. They could not have entered the skull from outside. There were no traces of them nearby. By examining the charred remains of wood, scientists determined that the temperature at this location reached up to 520 degrees Celsius. The fat in the man's body literally ignited, and the soft tissues evaporated. After that, the temperature around dropped sharply, which led to the vitrification of the brain remains. The man's lungs turned into a spongy mass, which was also not observed in other remains. Scientists have already seen a similar situation with the lungs in victims of more recent tragic events, such as the fires in Dresden and Hamburg during the World War II. Let's move from the glass brain to glass tools. Menstruation and brewing. Have you ever pretended to be sick to avoid going to school or work? Well, you're not alone. Even the ancient Egyptians did things like that. Imagine this. Scientists from the British Museum stumbled upon a huge stone shard called an ostracon. They found inscriptions on it that were dated to around 1250 BC. And do you know what they found there? Yes, exactly. Excuses that ancient Egyptian workers used to get off work. This stone journal was kept for 280 days a year, and it lists the names of 40 workers. Next to each name are the reasons why they missed work. Someone was bitten by a scorpion, someone else is taking care of a sick mother. For example, some of the reasons sound pretty funny to us. For example, some workers left work to take care of their wife or daughter during their period. And workers also had to take time off to embalm deceased relatives. It was a complicated and lengthy process that required attention and time. And of course, let's not forget about beer. In ancient Egypt, beer was a nutritious drink, enjoyed by both children and adults. And yes, workers sometimes took days off to brew it. So friends, if you ever feel like taking a day off to brew beer, remember, even the ancient Egyptians might envy you. The name of Jesus Christ. While studying the remains of a man from Sudan, scientists from the University of Warsaw discovered a religious tattoo with a Christian symbol. These remains were found near the Ghazali Monastery, which dates back to the Middle Ages. On the leg of the deceased, who passed away about 1,300 years ago, a tattoo was discovered depicting the Chi-Rho, a monogram of the name of Jesus Christ, made from the Greek letters Chi and Rho. In addition, the symbols Alpha and Omega were depicted nearby. This symbol first appeared in 324 AD during the reign of Emperor Constantine. Alpha and Omega are the first and last letters of the Greek alphabet, symbolizing the idea of God as the beginning and the end of everything. It's interesting the tattoo is on the right leg. As scientists say, that's where the nail may have been driven during Christ's crucifixion. This religious marking indicates the man's Christian faith. However, it has not been established whether he was a monk from the Ghazali Monastery, since his remains were found in a nearby cemetery intended for local residents. The analysis found he was 35 to 50 years old when he died. At that time, this region, known as Nubia, included part of modern Egypt and Sudan, and Christianity was the main religion. Although the remains were found 7 years ago, the unique tattoo was discovered only recently, and this is only the second known case of a tattoo in medieval Nubia. The Merneptah Stele. The long period of slavery of the Jews in Egypt and their subsequent exodus from Egypt is one of the most complicated chapters in the history of ancient Egypt. Although archaeological evidence of this event is limited, every discovery is of great significance. Some people believe that there is no evidence of the Jews being in Egypt at the time of the Exodus, but this is not true. The most well-known evidence is the stele of Pharaoh Merneptah, discovered in Thebes in 1896. It refers to the military achievements of Merneptah and contains the earliest mention of Israel. The stele identifies Israel not as a state, but as a people hostile to Egypt. This fact is interesting because Merneptah was a descendant of Ramesses II, the possible pharaoh from the book of Exodus. According to the Bible, the exodus of the Jews marked the beginning of the formation of Jewish statehood. Merneptah may have witnessed the rise of Egyptian domination in the region, which later weakened under Ramesses II. During this period, new states were mainly formed by migrants from southern Italy, the Aegean region, and western Anatolia. The mention of Israel may confirm the biblical version of the Israelites returning to their land from the south. The mystery of the mummified bishop unraveled. Today we have an unusual story from the 17th century. A small mummified fetus was found between the legs of the eminent Bishop Peter Winstrup. Bishop Winstrup was a prominent figure in the Lutheran Church, and after his death in 1679, he was buried in the crypt of the Lund Cathedral. For several years, scientists tried to figure out who this child was, and thanks to DNA analysis, they determined that he was most likely the bishop's grandson. The boy was not fully developed, and researchers suggest that his mother had a miscarriage in the 6th month of pregnancy. The bishop and the child share 25% of their genetic material, which indicates a second-degree relationship. After analyzing the baby's DNA and Winstrup's family tree, scientists concluded that the boy is the son of the bishop's son. The grandson was buried in the tomb with his grandfather. This case once again highlights how extraordinary and fascinating the study of the past can be with the help of archaeology and genetics. After all, this is how we can reconstruct stories that have remained untold for centuries. The Singapore Stone. In front of you is a huge sandstone rock that is several centuries old. It stood at the mouth of the Singapore River like a steadfast guardian of time. You can see strange symbols on it, an inscription that has never been deciphered. It may have been written in Old Javanese or Sanskrit. Perhaps it was commissioned by some influential Sumatran. This stone is even linked to the legendary strongman of the 14th century named Badang. They say he threw the stone into the river, and later stone columns were erected in his honor. But what happened to the stone next? In 1843, the stone was blown up to widen the passage at the river mouth. Only fragments of it remain, and one of them is now in the National Museum of Singapore as a national treasure. This stone is not just an old piece of sandstone, it's a mystery that scientists are trying to unravel. The mystery held by this inscription will tell us more about the past and the people who lived in ancient times. Perhaps technology from the future will help us decipher it. What did the Lisbon earthquake change? On November 1, 1755, Lisbon was shaken by one of the most destructive earthquakes in European history. The force of nature struck the city with unexpected power, causing a tsunami and endless fires that increased the destruction. The epicenter of the earthquake, estimated at a magnitude of about 8.5 to 9 on the Richter scale, was located in the Atlantic Ocean, near the Portuguese coast. The earthquake occurred in the morning, when most residents were preparing to celebrate All Saints' Day, adding a mystical element to this terrifying event. The destruction in Lisbon was colossal, with about 85% of the city's buildings destroyed, including important religious, historical, and public structures. According to various estimates, the disaster claimed between 10,000 and 100,000 lives. Many died under the rubble, while others were killed by the tsunami that reached the coast shortly after the earthquake. Many believers saw the earthquake as God's punishment for the sins of humanity. This belief led to mass religious processions and public confessions in the hope of appeasing the heavens. On the other hand, this event prompted some philosophers and scientists to reflect on the natural causes of such disasters, which contributed to the development of a scientific approach to studying earthquakes. The rebuilding of Lisbon was overseen by Marquês de Pombal, the Prime Minister of Portugal, who took decisive and innovative measures. Pombal organized the construction of a new city using earthquake-resistant structures and strategic urban planning, which included wide, straight streets and buildings resistant to earthquakes. These measures not only helped to quickly restore the city, but also laid the foundation for modern urban planning methods. The impact of the Lisbon earthquake on the development of methods for responding to natural disasters was enormous. The approaches of Marquis Pombal to managing the aftermath of disasters and restoring infrastructure became the foundation for modern emergency management techniques. His actions demonstrate how important it is to respond promptly to crises and to take lessons from the past to minimize losses in the future. Despite significant efforts and achievements, many aspects of the Lisbon earthquake remain shrouded in mystery. Questions about the exact causes, mechanisms of the earthquake, and its long-term consequences for geology and society continue to concern scientists. These unresolved mysteries maintain scientific interest and stimulate continued research in the fields of seismology and civil protection. The unicorn's horn. Allow me to introduce you to the life of the medieval unicorn. This creature, although mythical, faced cruel treatment from humanity. People hunted unicorns for their magical horns, which were believed to have unique properties, such as the ability to purify water and remove poison from food. Unicorns were believed to exist according to the accounts of many ancient scholars, including Aristotle and Ctesias, as well as great minds like Leonardo da Vinci. In the Middle Ages, unicorns symbolized purity and wisdom. Their horns became a symbol of prosperity and could indicate whether food had been poisoned among the aristocracy. But how do you find a unicorn horn in a world where these creatures don't exist? This question was answered by using the horns of other animals, such as rhinoceroses or walruses. However, the most popular were the tusks of narwhals, animals from the Arctic, whose twisted tusks were mistakenly believed to be unicorn horns for centuries. Travelers and hunters secretly obtained these horns and sold them to Europeans as the horns of mythical creatures. Thus, merchants and great rulers like Lorenzo Medici and Queen Elizabeth II paid huge sums for these tusks, considering them symbols of power and protection. Even the great inquisitor Tomás de Torquemada never traveled without a piece of such a horn, believing it could save his life from heretics. With the development of science and the progress of research methods, belief in the miraculous properties of unicorn horns faded, and now they remain only as exhibits in museums, a reminder of how legends and religious reality intertwined in human history. African rock art is a priceless heritage, highlighting the richness and diversity of the continent's cultures. From the sand drawings of South Africa to the mysterious images of Tassili in North Africa, rock art reflects a history spanning thousands of years. The Sahara contains some of the oldest examples, dating back to the end of the last ice age, about 12,000 years ago. Images of giraffes and other animals testify to the rich wildlife of that time. Mysterious symbols and figures that combine features of animals and humans continue to intrigue scientists. In Central Africa, in the area inhabited by the Pygmies, geometric rock art predominates, testifying to the ancient culture of these peoples. In East Africa, in Tanzania, rock art depicting animals and people resembles the traditions of the San, but has its own unique features. In the south, beyond the Zambezi River, lies the land of the San, where art dates back to the most ancient times. The San rock paintings reflecting the spiritual journeys and rituals of shamans are among the most exquisite and symbolically rich images in world art. This heritage needs to be protected and preserved for future generations, so it can continue to inspire and tell the story of humanity's past. An unfinished pre-flood structure. In the mysterious valleys of Lebanon lies Baalbek, a city that holds the mysteries of ancient times. A recently discovered structure at this site has added new information, confirming the unique significance of Baalbek for archaeology and world culture. For a long time, the megalithic architecture of Baalbek remained a mystery to scientists. The construction methods and reasons for creating such large-scale structures had no analogs. However, the latest discovery offers new interpretations and opportunities for understanding ancient civilizations. Baalbek, located in the Bekaa Valley, is known for its important role during the Hellenistic and Roman periods. Since the conquest by Alexander the Great, the city underwent significant changes, becoming a bridge between Eastern and Western cultures. Greek culture left its mark on the architecture and art of Baalbek, which can be seen in the stylistic features of its buildings. The Romans, in turn, expanded and strengthened its status as a religious and cultural center by erecting majestic temples and public buildings. The most famous structures of Baalbek are the temples dedicated to Jupiter, Venus, and Bacchus. These temples are known not only for their magnificence, but also for the technical achievements embodied in their construction. One of the most significant elements is the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, a giant megalith weighing over 1,000 tons, which was never included in the final construction of the temple. The discovery in the quarry in 2014 only deepened the mysteries associated with these ancient construction methods. The findings showed that ancient builders used technologies ahead of their time, raising questions about the origin and spread of ancient engineering knowledge. Comparing Baalbek with other ancient wonders, such as Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids, you can notice common features in their logistical and engineering approaches. For example, transporting huge stones for Stonehenge or building the pyramids in Giza required not only physical resources but also advanced planning and astronomical knowledge. Modern archaeological methods, such as ground-penetrating radar surveys and 3D scanning, are opening new horizons in the study of ancient technologies. Faces on Albixa. Due to drought in the Brazilian region, the water level in the Amazon River has reached a record low, which led to the discovery of faces and other figures engraved on an ancient stone that is more than 2,000 years old. These petroglyphs, including images of animals and other natural forms, were found on the banks of the Rio Negro at an archaeological site known as Ponta das Lajes. Researchers estimate that the drawings are between 1,000 and 2,000 years old. But on the stones, in addition to images of faces and water, There are also grooves indicating that the site was used for making stone tools. Archaeologists discovered 25 groups of engravings on a single rock. The find indicates that this place was used for sharpening various tools. In addition, pottery shards were found at this site. Although Ponta das Lajes is recognized as an archaeological monument, the petroglyphs have not yet been studied. What other secrets do you think the Amazon is hiding? Share your thoughts in the comments. A pot with burnt porridge. In one of the oldest villages in Germany, in Oldenburg, LA7 archaeologists discovered a unique treasure, fragments of an ancient pot. This find tells us about the culinary preferences of our ancestors more than 5,000 years ago. They also cooked porridge. Lucy Kubiak-Martin, the famous archaeobotanist, shared some impressive details. Chemical analysis of the shards revealed traces of grains such as emmer and barley, as well as protein-rich goosefoot seeds, similar to quinoa. Interestingly, sprouted grains were found, which indicates that ancient people did not know how to dry grain properly. This is the first time traces of food preparation have been found on pottery in Neolithic Germany. The Taung Child. This is the story of a little child from Taung whose skull, discovered in 1924, became one of the first ancient human fossils in Africa. The uniqueness of the Taung child's skull lies in its structure. For the first time, scientists saw evidence that ancient humans walked upright on two legs. It's all about an opening called the foramen magnum, through which the spinal cord connects to the brain. In this child, it is located at the front of the skull, which is typical for creatures that move on two legs, unlike apes whose foramen magnum is positioned further back. And we learn the age of the Taung child by studying its teeth. The first molars were just beginning to erupt, which indicates that the child was very young, a little over 3 years old. Scientists suggest that it was attacked and killed by an eagle. The clue lies in the unique marks found at the bottom of the child's eye sockets. They are very similar to the ones left by eagle talons and beaks when they attack monkeys. This hypothesis is also supported by the discovery of eggshells and an unusual collection of animal bones at the site, mostly from small animals that are often preyed upon by modern birds of prey. The lost part of Ramesses II's statue. In 1930, the German archaeologist Günther Rieder discovered the lower part of the statue of Ramesses II, known as Ramesses the Great, who ruled from 1279 to 1213 BC in Egypt. The statue was broken, and its upper part had remained lost for centuries. After a long search, the upper part of the statue was finally found in Hermopolis, which had been turned into an open-air museum. The discovery was made thanks to the efforts of archaeologists from Egypt and the United States during excavations in Hermopolis, which is located near El Ashmunin. Hermopolis was one of the main religious centers of antiquity, dedicated to the god of wisdom, Thoth. The upper part of the statue, measuring 3.8 meters long, was discovered under layers of sand and depicts the pharaoh wearing a traditional headdress with a cobra. The statue is made of limestone. On its back, hieroglyphs are engraved praising Ramses II. The find also contained traces of ancient paint, which will give scientists the opportunity to accurately date the creation of the statue and determine its origin. Ramses II is known as one of the greatest pharaohs in the history of ancient Egypt. During his long life, he built many significant structures and strengthened Egypt's military and diplomatic power. Lydenburg heads. Between 1962 and 1964, a boy in Lydenburg, Mpumalanga, South Africa, discovered strange pottery fragments being washed out of a ravine. These pieces were collected and reconstructed into 7 heads, known as the Lydenburg heads, which are the earliest known examples of Iron Age art south of the equator. The heads, dated to the year 500 AD, were used for ceremonial purposes by ancient inhabitants. The Lydenburg heads consist of 2 large ones and 5 smaller ones. They are distinguished by their rough texture and have colors ranging from red to golden orange. All 7 heads have holes, which indicates possible use in rituals or as part of a costume. Scientists believe that the heads were created by the Bantu, who were engaged in agriculture and metallurgy. Excavations and anthropological studies have disproved the assumption that the heads were made from human skulls, confirming their ceramic origin. The Baghdad Battery. How would you explain this artifact from the past that combines the technologies of the present? In 1938, in the Iraqi desert, archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig discovered a mysterious clay jar. Inside the jar was an iron rod wrapped in copper. It looks like an ancient battery that is 2,000 years old. One scientist even took a replica of such a Baghdad battery, filled it with grape juice, and generated electricity. The TV show Mythbusters also tested this story, and it turned out to be plausible. Could the ancient inhabitants of Iraq have used this jar as a battery? Maybe they just stored scrolls in it? Or was it a clever trick in temples? Scientists are still debating. Unfortunately, the original jar was stolen in 2003, and now we can only guess what it was really used for. Maybe this jar is the key to the secrets of ancient technologies. Or maybe it's just an interesting artifact. An ancient toy for adults. An artifact that is more than 2,000 years old was found in the United Kingdom back in 1992. Initially, archaeologists assumed that this wooden object was used as a sewing tool. However, further studies suggested that it could have been an ancient sexual device. Most scientists agree that the wooden object found is shaped like a phallus. The uniqueness of this artifact is that it has not changed its shape or method of use, even after thousands of years. And it's interesting that its shape won't change in the future either, for obvious reasons. However, there are several theories regarding the use of this artifact as a sex toy. Based on Roman depictions, it is known that they had dildos. However, few of them have survived to the present, since they were most often made from organic materials. Some archaeologists also suggest that slave owners could have used such an item to inflict pain and demonstrate power over slaves. Others believe that it could have been a good luck amulet, since in ancient times, amulets of a similar shape were very common. And the last option is that it could have been used as a mortar for grinding or mixing spices and other materials used for culinary or medicinal purposes. Features of the Antikythera mechanism. In the depths of the sea near the island of Antikythera, in 1901, a group of Greek divers came across one of the most mysterious discoveries in the history of archaeology. They discovered a sunken ship that was carrying treasures from the ancient world, including statues, jewelry, and most remarkably, a complex mechanism, corroded and covered with marine deposits. This object, which became known as the Antikythera mechanism, is shrouded in mysteries of the past and today is the subject of numerous studies. The mechanism, made of bronze, is a complex system of gears and levers, consisting of 30 mechanical components housed in a wooden frame. The structure of the mechanism testifies to the high level of knowledge and technical skills of its creators. This artifact demonstrates remarkable mastery of metalworking and knowledge in the field of astronomy. 3D scanning and X-ray tomography have allowed scientists to delve deeper into the structure of the mechanism and understand how it works. These methods made it possible to study every detail of the device without risking damage to it. Thanks to these technologies, it was discovered in the last century that the mechanism includes a series of gears capable of predicting the astronomical positions and ephemerides of the sun, the moon, and other planets of the solar system. The main function of the Antikythera mechanism was astronomical modeling. The device was used to calculate and predict solar and lunar eclipses, as well as to determine the phases of the moon and possibly the positions of the planets. This discovery greatly expanded our understanding of how advanced technology and scientific knowledge were in ancient Greece, confirming their ability to create complex computational devices many centuries before the invention of digital computers. Nevertheless, many aspects of the Antikythera mechanism remain unsolved. For example, the exact purpose of some components and scales, as well as the complete list of its functions, are still not fully understood. In addition, it remains unclear who exactly created this mechanism and whether other similar devices were made that could provide additional information about the technological achievements of that era. The Antikythera mechanism remains a symbol of ancient Greek engineering, reminding us that the history of technology and science still has many unknown chapters. The secret of a 4,000-year-old artifact. In 2001, the archaeological world was puzzled by a stream of unique antiquities on the antiques market. Jewelry, weapons, and ceramics with exquisite designs and inlays appeared as if out of thin air, raising questions about their origin. Works known for their complexity and symbolism were linked to Central Asia, but it was later found they weren't forgeries. An investigation in Iran in 2002 revealed the secret behind these discoveries. The arrests of the traders led to the discovery of the location of the artifacts in the Halil River Valley, where a flood in 2001 revealed an ancient Bronze Age necropolis. Local residents began selling the artifacts, thus revealing the existence of a previously unknown culture. Archaeologists were amazed by the scale of the discovery and began studying the site, excavating the main necropolis of Matut Abat and two burial mounds, South and North Konar Sandal, uncovering remains of ancient structures and evidence of the development of this civilization. In 2003, under the leadership of Yusuf Majidzadeh, systematic excavations began, lasting several years and revealing amazing artifacts and evidence of the existence of an ancient city here. Debates about the origin and significance of the Jiroft culture continue. Some scholars believe it to be the legendary Arada mentioned in Sumerian texts. Others suggest an association with the ancient kingdom of Markashi. Despite differences in opinion, excavations at Jiroft have provided invaluable information about an ancient civilization, leaving much room for further research and discoveries. Underground city, the Jersin Cave located in Saudi Arabia is an important archaeological site that demonstrates the significant role lava tubes played in the lives of our ancestors. This 1.5-kilometer lava tunnel, formed as a result of volcanic activity, served as a shelter for people for 7,000 years. An international team of archaeologists discovered numerous artifacts here, which tell the story of ancient life. Fragments of clothing, processed wood, remains of stone structures and tools, presumably used for household purposes, were found. Archaeologists also came across animal bones, which could have been either food waste or part of burials. The study of the remains shows that the cave dwellers' diet was richer in protein, but over time, the proportion of plant food from nearby oases increased. The caves were also used by herders as temporary shelters during journeys between oases, which contributed to trade. This hypothesis is supported by cave paintings depicting domestic livestock. 100,000 ancient coins. In Mayabash, Japan, archaeologists discovered a unique find of over 100,000 ancient coins, including Chinese Banliang coins dated to 175 BC. These coins, found during the construction of a factory, cover the period from the 7th to the 13th centuries. They were tied in bundles of 100 pieces using straw ropes called sashi. This place, located near the ruins of the Qin Dynasty Palace, was chosen to hide the treasures, probably because of an approaching war. A total of 1,060 sashi bundles were found, some of which contained up to 1,000 coins. An analysis of 334 coins from the hoard revealed 44 different types of currency, covering the period from the Western Han Dynasty to the Southern Song Dynasty. The earliest Banliang coin has a diameter of 2.3 cm, a square hole in the center, and a thickness of 1 millimeter. The latest coin dates back to the year 1265, which indicates that the hoard was hidden during the Kamakura period. The tomb of the last king of the Anunnaki, Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, is one of the most important and mysterious figures in the history of ancient Mesopotamia. He not only became the central figure in one of the oldest epic poems, but also left a profound mark on culture and religion. Gilgamesh, whose name is still shrouded in mystery, was an outstanding ruler whose achievements became the foundation for many myths and legends. During his reign, Gilgamesh was known as a great builder, strategist, and warrior. He is credited with the construction of the massive city walls of Uruk, which protected the inhabitants from enemies and natural disasters. According to legends, these walls were so impressive that the gods themselves took part in their construction. In addition, the reign of Gilgamesh is associated with a period of economic prosperity and cultural flourishing, which made Uruk an important center of the ancient world. Gilgamesh became a central figure in mythology thanks to the epic poem about his exploits, known as the Epic of Gilgamesh. This literary monument, found in the library of the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal in Nineveh, describes the journeys and adventures of Gilgamesh, his struggle with supernatural forces of nature, as well as his quest for immortality. This poem is not only the most important source for studying ancient Mesopotamian civilization, but also reflects eternal human aspirations and experiences. Archaeological findings confirm the historicity of Gilgamesh. During excavations in Uruk and other Mesopotamian cities, many artifacts were found, including cuneiform tablets with texts and inscriptions mentioning his name. Of particular significance is a tomb that, according to some accounts, may belong to Gilgamesh himself. If confirmed, this discovery could be key to understanding the historical figure of Gilgamesh. Among the archaeological finds, special attention is drawn to texts describing the Anunnaki, deities who played an important role in the mythology of ancient Mesopotamia. The Anunnaki are considered descendants of the sky god An and the earth goddess Ki, and were associated with the creation of humanity and the control of its destiny. Theories about the Anunnaki's influence go beyond Mesopotamia, connecting them to other ancient civilizations and extraterrestrial visitors from Nibiru. Comparisons are often made between different Nibiru theories.
Другими теориями катаклизмов, такими...
The global flood or the fall of the Tunguska meteorite demonstrate a wide range of hypotheses about the origin and development of humanity. The discovery of Gilgamesh's tomb could shed light on many aspects of the life and reign of this legendary king, as well as confirm or refute the numerous myths about him. Penny from Maine. This Viking coin, known as the Goddard penny, was discovered near an old Native American settlement in the United States in Maine in 1956. It is possible that Vikings and Native Americans once met. The only known Viking site in America is in Canada, not Maine. Some scholars think it might be a forgery. Some believe that the coin was planted by Goddard himself or by one of the archaeologists. But for now, this coin remains a real mystery that has intrigued researchers for more than half a century. The story reminds us that the past is always full of surprises and unexplored mysteries. Zombie grave. In a recently opened burial site near Oppen in Saxony-Anhalt, Germany, archaeologists discovered amazing Bronze Age artifacts connected to ancient superstitions. In the grave, the remains of a man were found lying on his side, with his legs pinned down by a heavy stone about a meter long and 50 centimeters wide. In this way, those who buried him tried to prevent his return to the world of the living. According to the head of the excavation, Uwe Moas, the man aged between 40 and 60 was positioned facing east, which indicates the cultural rituals of that time. Moas suggests that the deceased either suffered from a serious illness or was not respected among his own people. It is claimed that the man could have been part of the bell beaker culture, which is characterized by a specific style of pottery. In those distant times, people sincerely believed in the existence of revenants, who sought to return to the world of the living. The means of combating them were varied, from piercing bodies with spears to placing heavy stones on the bodies to prevent them from rising from the dead. A ritual axe aged 4,500 years. In China, in the city of Wuxi, archaeologists discovered an ancient ritual weapon, an axe with an engraving that is 4,500 years old. The axe belongs to the Liangzhu culture, one of the most advanced cultures in China of that time. This culture lived in the Yangtze River Delta, but when floods occurred, the Liangzhu people were forced to leave their capital and settlement. This led to their complete disappearance around 2300 BC. Scientists found 329 stone tools, 73 stone and bone arrows, and many other artifacts made of pottery and jade. The most interesting item is an axe which has engravings of tigers, cloud patterns, and birds on both sides. The axe was found on a sacrificial platform, and it shows signs of wear and damage. Scientists believe that the axe was not used in battles, but in rituals and ceremonies to symbolize power. Liu Baoshan, the head of the local archaeological institute, said that the patterns on the axe were made using a harder stone tool. This is the first axe with a tiger engraving found in this region. Now we will delve even deeper into history and find out what our ancestors ate more than 100,000 years ago. The footprints of the gods in the Ain Dara temple. In northern Syria, in the arid lands, there is a unique archaeological site called Ain Dara, a complex of structures surrounding a majestic central temple, which is unlike anything else of its kind. One of its remarkable features is the giant footprints on the threshold, each up to 1 meter long, clearly indicating their non-human origin. According to local residents, the footprints were left by a deity, and the temple resembles the biblical description of Solomon's temple. The temple, which dates to the Iron Age of the Syro-Hittite kingdoms that emerged after the collapse of the Hittite Empire around 1180 BC and lasted until 700 BC, was discovered in 1955. Archaeological excavations have made it possible to study its structure and decorations in more detail. The temple stands on a mound and is surrounded by a gallery. Its foundation is made up of massive basalt blocks. The walls are decorated with intricate carvings depicting geometric patterns and mythical animals, which testifies to the high skill of its creators. The entrance is guarded by lions and sphinxes carved from stone. Nevertheless, it is still unknown to whom exactly the temple was dedicated. There is a theory that it might have been dedicated to the goddess Ishtar, but there is definitive evidence. The giant human footprints not only confirm the connection of the structure with ancient myths and deities, but also emphasize its cultural, religious, and mystical significance. However, in 2018, a huge part of this temple was destroyed by airstrikes. Scandinavian cipher deciphered. Jonas Nordby, a researcher from the University of Oslo, deciphered an ancient Scandinavian cipher from the 12th to 13th centuries, known as Jotunvilur, which roughly translates as giant's confusion. The solution was found thanks to a 13th century wooden stick from the Norwegian city of Bergen, on which Sigurd and Lavrance wrote their names both in regular runic script and using the Jotunvilur cipher. This discovery became a kind of Rosetta Stone for the researcher, helping to decipher the text by reading each rune not by its usual value, but by the last sound in its name. In addition, other wooden inscriptions were found where the names Thorstein and Eidnar were written using the same cipher. Runic sticks from the 12th and 13th centuries in Scandinavia were used to send messages, similar to modern SMS. Nordby believes that Jotunvilur might have been used not so much for secrecy, but more as a language game, helping with literacy education. So, the 800-year-old code called Jotunvilur turned out to be a joke. The message said, "Kiss me." Scientists drank water that was 2.6 billion years old. As soon as the world calmed down after the pandemic, scientists decided to conduct a new, unusual experiment. Without thinking twice, it seems to me, they decided to taste water that was 2.6 billion years old. The water has been preserved since the time when there was not even free oxygen in Earth's atmosphere, and the first multicellular organisms began to appear almost 1 billion years later. This water was not like what we are used to seeing. It was salty and viscous. But is it really water? The water was discovered in thin cracks in the granite of a Canadian mine. The source was located several kilometers below the Earth's surface. Canadian geologist and geochemist Professor Barbara Sherwood Lawler decided to taste the oldest water on the planet. She is known for her research on water resources. I'm even afraid to imagine how much water she has tasted throughout her life. According to her statement, the water turned out to be salty, viscous, and had the consistency of light maple syrup. The liquid is extremely salty due to the reaction between the water and the rock, and it also has a higher viscosity than tap water. It also turned orange because minerals are starting to form in it. While someone is tasting Earth's viscous liquid, I'll tell you about the oldest skates from China. The mystery of the blue lotus. There are legends about this beautiful flower. It grows only in the rivers and lakes of Africa and Asia. The blue lotus, also known as the Egyptian lotus or sacred lotus, has beautiful blue petals and possesses healing properties. This flower was very popular in ancient Egypt. The Egyptians believed that the water lily helped guide souls to the afterlife and communicate with the gods. It is also mentioned in the Egyptian Book of the Dead and was considered a symbol of immortality. One of the reasons why the flower was so popular in ancient times is its ability to influence a person's consciousness and behavior. It also expands the boundaries of perception. In short, It's a powerful hallucinogen. Any ancient Egyptian priest was familiar with the magical properties of the blue lotus. One of the most well-known natural hallucinogens is ayahuasca, which is still used by indigenous peoples of the Amazon and Brazilian shamans when they perform religious rituals. Another huge advantage of the blue lotus is that it doesn't require special care or conditions. In ancient Egypt, medicine, magic, and religion were very closely connected to each other. Honestly, even though people nowadays have become more educated and are not as wild, many still believe that illnesses can be cured with some kind of magical rituals and completely refuse to go to hospitals. The first mention of this flower was noticed by archaeologists in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and later they discovered the Ebers Papyrus, where they found almost 1,000 different recipes and treatment methods using the blue lotus. It is a powerful aphrodisiac. It was often used by the elite at secret gatherings in temples, adding it to sacred wines. Its fragrance is so wonderful that on the walls of tombs you can see images of people inhaling it. The blue lotus can be found in erotic papyri, statues that sang. Once among the sandy dunes of Egypt, near the city of Luxor, you will notice two giant stone figures. They guard the ancient pharaoh's sarcophagus like two majestic and silent sentinels. But one day, after a great earthquake in 27 BC, one of them began to sing. Yes, you heard that right. He started making a sound like both a whistle and a moan. That's how the legend of the singing colossi of Memnon began. No, this isn't a myth. People have heard this mysterious melody for centuries. Imagine the sound became so famous that it was even used as a standard for tuning musical instruments. Hundreds, no thousands of curious souls have come from all corners of the earth to hear the song of these 700-ton giants. Scientists, of course, couldn't ignore such a wonder. They struggled for a long time with the mystery of the singing colossus, but they couldn't come up with a satisfactory answer. They suggested that the musical phenomenon is connected to the dew, which evaporates in the morning from the porous sandstone the statues are made of, and under the influence of wind and rising temperature, creates this unique sound. The place where these colossi stand is called the City of the Dead. Here lies one of the most breathtaking Egyptian temples, where the pharaoh is buried with his entire family. And by the way, these two similar statues depict Pharaoh Amenhotep III. Each of them weighs 720 tons and reaches a height of 18 meters. But in the year 199 AD, after a not very careful restoration, the statue's song suddenly stopped. People took this as a bad sign and were sure it was a harbinger of disasters and wars. When you find yourself in Egypt, be sure to visit the City of the Dead and come face to face with these great giants. I'm sure this encounter will stay in your memory forever. I was literally near them just recently, and they filled me with admiration. The healing properties of Stonehenge. Stonehenge, surrounded by an aura of mystique and ancient secrets, remains one of the most mysterious archaeological monuments in the world. This monument, built in the Neolithic and Bronze Age, attracts the attention of researchers with its unique stones and mystical past. Archaeological finds around Stonehenge are striking in their diversity, from human remains to everyday objects. Among the most significant discoveries are numerous burials, which are believed to belong to people who traveled here from different parts of ancient Britain and even Europe. The skeletons found in the Stonehenge area often show signs of surgical interventions and other forms of medical treatment, which gives reason to believe that this place might have been used for healing. There are several theories regarding the original purpose of Stonehenge. Some scholars believe it was an ancient astronomical calendar, while others think it was a place for rituals and celebrations. The hypothesis that draws the most attention is that Stonehenge was a healing center. This theory is supported by the analysis of human remains and artifacts found in the area of the monument, many of which indicate that people made pilgrimages in search of healing. The blue stones of Stonehenge, brought from the mountainous regions of Wales, are unique because their origin is more than 200 kilometers away from Stonehenge, which makes their presence here a real engineering mystery. According to some researchers, ancient people might have attributed special healing properties to these stones, which could have been the reason for transporting them such a long distance. Archaeological data and scientific research confirm the theory about the use of the stones for medical purposes at Stonehenge. Bone analyses show that many of the people buried here suffered from serious illnesses or injuries and may have sought healing from these mystical stones. This function of Stonehenge fits into the context of a broad network of ancient beliefs and rituals common among the peoples of the Bronze Age in Britain. Besides healing, Stonehenge may have been a community site for rituals tied to seasonal changes, land fertility, and ancestor veneration. The mystique surrounding Stonehenge remains the subject of numerous discussions and speculations. The mysterious stones continue to attract researchers and pilgrims, and each new discovery only adds depth to the enthusiasm for exploration, shrouding this ancient monument in new layers of mystery and speculation about its true role in the ancient world. And you can learn even more about ancient mysteries on our channel. Subscribe and share this video with your friends. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, everyone.